Oh, welcome to today's episode of Light Lunch. I'm joined by Chris and Cameron, who I will let introduce themselves, starting with you, Chris.
Hi there, everyone. My name is Chris Dunlop. I was a civil engineer for 5 years and then in 2020 started Cub Digital. So we are an AI agency in Auckland and we work with cool companies across the construction, finance and sports space. So working a cool client on our first one was the Olympic team and we have helped them with their AI program since 2020. So yeah, it's kind of
Cool. And Cameron?
So my name's Cameron Hyndman. My role is National Lead for Digital Engineering at Downer, Transport and Infrastructure in New Zealand. So we pretty much build stuff that doesn't have doors and windows typically, although that is a lie. We build underground stations, which are kind of like buildings, but so heavily focused on building infrastructure and maintaining infrastructure. I've got a team of about 20 people, largely focused on CAD, BIM, GIS, but I got a small but very clever automation and AI team. And so yeah, been at Downer for the last sort of 9 years. And I actually met Chris, when was it? It was, I'll say 6 months ago. It was longer than that probably. And what happened was I had a friend of mine cold call me and say, hey, there's this guy Will, and he wants to know about digital engineering and construction. Can you have a call with him? So I didn't know Will, and I said, yeah, of course, I can have a call with Will. So anyway, I start this call with Will, and Will didn't have any headphones, so I was just chatting with him, and obviously what I'm saying is coming out of his speakers. And next minute, I see Chris sort of slide into the picture. He's on an office chair and he sort of slid over, and he was sort of like, "Oh, what are you guys talking about there?" And then so Chris and I started yarning, and I quickly realized, I was like, "Okay, I need to meet this guy. He's got an incredible story." So then what happened was I got offered some tickets to the rugby in the Downer corporate box. And I thought, oh no, I'm going to give Chris a cold call. So I rang him up and said, hey, I know I hadn't met him in person, but I said, hey,
that's the fastest time from having a call to going to a corporate box in my entire life. It was have a call on Friday and then the corporate box on a Saturday.
Yeah, pretty much. So I said, hey, do you want to come to the rugby? And Chris was like, okay, cool. And so I met Chris at the rugby, and then by the end of the match, a couple of people behind me tapped me on the shoulder and said, Cam, did you guys even watch any of the rugby? Because you guys were just yarning the whole time about bloody technology and stuff. So yeah, then it was only probably a few weeks after that, I invited Chris to come and speak at a Downer conference. And so Chris got the dinner speaking spot and came and told us his whole story. And I got to say, it is just this incredible story of Kiwi innovation on an international stage. Just absolutely incredible. So anyway, that's the background of the story.
I might have to look up more of that story then. That sounds really exciting.
Yeah.
Go you guys.
Yeah, just a complete kind of random causal connection.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, let's move on to some questions that I've got for you guys. Chris, can you tell us about something that you're currently excited about at work? A project, a launch, something special? I imagine you have lots of crazy, cool things going on.
Yeah, so I randomly met a Serbian from Belgrade, and they read my blog and asked, hey, there's a lot of interest in AI at the moment. Would you want to help? It's called the Nebius Academy. Would you want to run a course, an online video course, to get people basically who've never coded before learning completely how to code with AI? So it's my first time doing a course. It's been awesome.
Wow.
Got a whole production team, a whole bunch of new friends in Belgrade. That's been really fun. And then in a work context, being in the project management space, we've been doing a lot of cool things, kind of imagining, because we work a lot with construction, but imagining what does it look like if we digitally replaced people in the cloud. So you know, and I'm a civil engineer, so that we would have a project manager, someone from council, you know, a graduate engineer, senior engineer. And so a fun project we've been thinking about is, what if we put all of those people and train them as agents that could all talk to each other to do work? And it's been really, really exciting and just super fun. Like every time you work on the project, it just blows your mind what is already here today. So
Yeah. Wow, that is very interesting. Yeah. Cameron, can you pop that?
No, I definitely cannot top that. But what I'd say is, and man, we need to have a proper catch up, Chris, because we've been basically thinking about the same thing. And yeah, just in the last 2 weeks, we have figured out that we can have these AI agents do some of our CAD work and database work, which is just for us, it's like it's a new discovery for us. But I think back to when I started drafting at Becker, Jesus, back in 1996, and they had only fairly recently gone from the drawing board to using AutoCAD, you know, within a few years kind of before that. And you know, that was a huge change in the way that designs were developed, you know, going from manual drawing to CAD, right? So huge efficiency gain, you know, huge effect on the industry in general. And I feel like most people don't realize it yet, but we are putting one foot into making a change that's probably more significant than that, which is where these AI agents are actually able to connect to your desktop tools and essentially do your work.
Wow, that's
So
awesome.
yeah, and so it's kind of mind-blowing, and it's also forcing us to think about what the future does look like.
Yes.
So, you know, AI for, I think, a lot of the construction industry, I would say most of the construction industry is kind of this concept of, hey, yeah, AI can automate some stuff and it's cool, but most of the industry are just sort of dabbling and playing with it. There's definitely some leaders there that are thought leaders that are you know, pushing the boundaries and coming up with sort of enterprise level um, you know, strategies and things like that. But in general, between Aussie and New Zealand, the construction industry is sort of, AI is just over there. But what's becoming clear with the use of AI agents and, you know, fairly new kind of ways of working, like using MCP, which I explain as being like the hands of AI, or some people call it like the USB stick of AI, being able to plug your AI into other things, is that there's a whole new world of automation that's opening up to us. And yeah, you'll be hearing a lot more about it, I think, in the coming months and years.
Can I just, sorry, pause for 2 seconds? My daughter, she's sick. I'm gonna just come back. And then, sorry, 1 sec.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That
yeah,
is nuts.
yeah, I know.
Wow.
Yeah, a potential big shift there. And the other thing is, you know, for us, so we publish these AI agents through like Microsoft Teams. So it's a very very common sort of easy way to kind of interact with the agents. So
Yeah,
you're just
wow.
having a chat. You're having a chat with someone in Teams essentially, and you know, you just ask questions. Oh, can I create this 3D model based on this Excel spreadsheet? Yes. Here's what you need. Okay, drag and drop it into the chat window, and next minute, oh wow, it's done the work in CAD. Same thing we're finding with database work. So we've got a job to deliver high quality 3D model as built. We do that monthly, but we also need to deliver asset data. And the trick, well, one of the big issues in construction in general is the long tail of some projects. Not all projects, but when I say long tail, there's not only, during that defects and liability period, there's a whole bunch of things to close out, but there's always outstanding issues. And some construction projects, the tail on them is absolutely years. So, with the use of AI agents, we will be able to, hand over these projects at, I imagine, lightning speed. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's quite scary.
Yeah, it's funny, the whole scary part, because I'm hearing that a lot more and more, especially, I mean, like, to be honest, this is something that we've kind of just uncovered in the last couple of weeks, so we're still trying to wrap our heads around what it all means. But in general, it's interesting. Most people's knee-jerk reaction is that it's scary, and I think the antidote to that is training, learning, understanding. Yeah,
I've heard that
totally.
a lot. You need to
Yeah,
get behind it all and get on the train with everybody,
yeah,
right?
that's right. I don't know if you can hear any banging in the background here, but I'm at home and there's some renovations started in our house today.
Oh,
And I was just chatting to the builders and plumbers. I was like, your guys' jobs are going to be like gold in, I don't know how long is it going to, in a couple of years' time, but not knowledge work more and more is probably, these highly repeatable tasks are going to lean more towards agentic workflows, and be more and more automated. It's seeming very obvious now, more obvious, I would say. And yeah, so interesting is like, yeah, those really jobs like being a plumber and stuff. I mean, hey, someone's going to say, yeah, AI powered robot is going to do that at some stage, but I can't see it in the near future. Anyway, I could be dead wrong. I
Maybe
think
not in our lifetime.
I think I heard someone say Jensen Huang from NVIDIA was saying that, 1 billion robots in 10 years time type thing on the planet. So he's got this vision. So, you never know.
Wow.
Mm.
Chris, do you want to tell us about a lesson or something you've learnt at work that you could pass on to others? Could be technical or personal or...
Yeah, cool. So one of the awesome things I found, this is from the Olympics, the athletes, they go to games and the outcome of what they're doing is out of their control. So, and this was talking to Eliza McCartney, who I went over to Paris last year and watched. And she was saying you can do your best ever in the games and you could technically come fourth. And the weird tension of that is like, have you done badly then? Well, the answer is clearly no. You've done, the fourth best in the world and your PB. And so it's kind of like, how do you wrestle with that? And she said, the thing that I like strive to do is just to do myself justice. So given everything that I've had going on in my life, if I can like look in the mirror and say, when I did a performance, I can safely say to myself 100% I've done myself justice, then that to me is success. And that really stuck with me because, in a business context, we all, there's always, you can always be doing better. You can always look to other people. There's always things that you can maybe feel bad about yourself, but a lot of things are outside of your control. And, the story of my business has been a number of big events out of my control. We started in COVID. I got cancer in 2022. These are all things that like I'm good now, but these are all things out of your control. And so you can kind of feel like, oh man, I'm not maybe winning the gold medal, but I'm doing my best, and that's really helped me because I've had to rebuild my running. Because I used to be a keen runner. Then I've had a number of operations and things, and they've cut a lot of nerves. So I've had to like learn how to kind of run properly again. And so it's hard to reframe from I used to be here and now I'm here, but now it's like, well, given what I have, I'm doing myself justice, even if I'm 20 minutes slower. So that's been a really cool one.
No wonder you guys didn't watch any rugby that day, because I wouldn't be watching the rugby if I sat next to you either. Be wanting to chat.
Yeah. And the other one that I really like, one more, was just around, one thing I really like about the teams is they've got a really clear picture of what they call picture of performance. And it's really awesome because it's not just what it's just what it takes to win and what it takes to be successful. And that might even be I go to sleep at 10 o'clock at night. That's what I need to be an elite athlete. That's part of my picture of performance. And I've found that often they're actually quite simple. And then, so for my business, what we talk about is it's better to have 10 customers that love you than 100 that kind of like you. So if we do that right, we get the customers to love us, and that means we surprise and delight them, and the rest kind of takes care of itself. So that can be a picture of performance in a business context. It doesn't have to be a money goal. It can be kind of like in the same way the All Blacks strive to be like dominant and things. There can be these sort of doing words. And so that's really helped. Like I've really taken that, and I think it's quite nice to just have a smaller frame of reference that you can control and focus on that.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Great lessons. And what about you, Cameron?
Yeah, I got a few little lessons, but yeah, I just want to say Chris's story, and he should probably tell it. It's incredible. His company's been working with the Olympic team and using cameras and AI essentially to detect movements of all the different sports for New Zealand Olympics. And I mean, that's a whole subject in itself, but incredible small start, hyper fast development, and now it's growing into more and more stuff. So yeah, a hyper agile, I would say, view of the world, and pair that up with the thinking of how AI is able to unlock this. I mean, I call it hyper agility, where it's these days faster to develop technology than it is to write down the requirements. That's the kind of new paradigm that we've moved into. And most people sort of don't realize it, but it needs a whole new way of thinking around how we do business. Because in AI, my sort of view at the moment is that 6 months is kind of like a lifetime. So we used to have this horizon view of, well, you want to look and see what's happening in 5 years. You just can't imagine 5 years. Like the biggest horizon is probably now maybe 2 years max. But then, like I said, 6 months is a lifetime in AI. Anyway, so getting off piece there a little bit, but it probably does lead into my couple of lessons learned for me, which is just the idea of people first. And people first to me means, lots of different things. But even if you look at, the conflicts that are happening in the world right now, and you hear that, oh, there's no dialogue happening between these two parties. So, you got no dialogue, you've got no connection between people, you will not have a resolution. And in my background, so I started working at Becca for a design consultant. I moved into IT and then have spent most of my career in construction. And one thing I kind of realized is that there's this sort of built up frustration between those different groups. People in the business get angry with IT often. I experience that. And then designers and contractors, they tend to bag each other sometimes, depending on the situation. But really, it's just a sort of a lack of understanding from the perspective of the other side. And so I guess that kind of people first, the outcome of it is that you need good relationships before you can sort of build anything, really. When I say build, I mean design, build, maintain. That's the kind of subject here. But it sort of doesn't matter what we do. You have to think of the people side first. And why it's so important into the future is that I don't think the AI shift, this paradigm shift that all industries will go through to some extent, I don't think it's necessarily a technological shift. I think it's more of a cultural and a people shift in the way that we do stuff. Because it's kind of like you build AI with AI. So it's actually the building of the technology is kind of becoming easier and easier, but it's the big shift in the way that we think. So people first, and then the other thing I've learned over many years really is actually just dealing with frustration. So if you've got a team of people that are always trying to come up with new ideas and innovate, there's seemingly more roadblocks than there are opportunities sometimes. Every time we come up with this idea, there's always a group of people saying you can't do it. And so I've had to learn personally to deal with frustration and just bake it in. That's just part of the job. It's part of the role. So me and my close kind of buddies at work, we kind of often talk about it. If a roadblock comes up, say, just remember this is just normal. Because I've seen people get frustrated and leave the industry and say, I'm out of here. I'm going to go do something else. It's like, no, it's all right. We just have to learn with frustration. It's a good sign. If we're getting frustrated, we're getting pushed back because we're trying to break new ground. So yeah, that's kind of my thinking. Yeah, it's really important. Yeah.
Ooh. Okay, maybe something more personal now. What do you do to keep your mental health and well-being in balance, Chris? I think we heard running.
Yeah. So again, after cancer, I sort of learnt, that was an interesting lesson because your whole life gets condensed down to your health. And the lesson I kind of took from that was, each day, how can you find the joy in the day? And that's kind of what I tried to do. So it sort of reframed how I structure my week. I prioritize my health first. So it means I schedule my going for a walk, or I'd say I go for a run, but the reality is I'm like walking half the time. But yeah, I do that first and get outside. And then also on another thing mentally is I read a lot of books, but I've been doing a blog, and it's actually turned into a couple of blogs, so a Medium and Substack, and just writing about technology, writing about my experience. And that's been amazing because it's sort of opened your eyes up. I've connected a lot of people around the world, and then you get a whole bunch of ideas from them. So that's been a really cool addition. Like I started that after about a year ago now. So
nice. Maybe we could share some links to some of these things for everybody watching as well. Would be great. And Cameron, what's some stuff that you do for your mental health, well-being, keeping that balance?
Yeah. So I'm a gym guy, so my outlet is I need to go to the gym basically. So I know if I don't go to the gym at all in 1 week, I can sort of feel it. Like I need to exert energy. I need to run. I need to go to the gym. So that's kind of my jam. I've started doing kickboxing recently with my 14-year-old.
That's
And
cool.
that taught me really, really quickly that I'm not fit. And I thought, I'm relatively fit. I can survive this. But oh my goodness, yeah. After the first session, I realized, wow, I've got a lot of work to do there. And then the other thing for me is the practice of meditation, which I don't often talk about. But yeah, it's probably a journey that I've been on, for a really long time. And yeah, it started off way back in the day. I watched too many kung fu movies in the 80s and started doing martial arts and got introduced to meditation through kind of the Buddhist avenue, and then done the Vipassana course up in Kalkopakapa, if anyone's heard of that. So it's like a 10-day meditation. You're not allowed to talk to anyone, no eye contact. It's pretty extreme, actually. So yeah, done that a few times. Yeah, so between that, going to the gym and a bit of meditation, that's how I keep sane. I go through like stages of like too much work. And I find myself often working long hours. So I do need to check myself, and my wife, often sort of checks me and says, "Hey, Cam, you need to kind of sort that out because you're working too much." So definitely something I'm still working on. I know I haven't got the balance right all the time. So yeah, work in progress there.
Yeah, cool. All right. Chris, last question. Can you tell us about a person who's been influential to you? Personal, career?
Yeah, so through my work I've met Barbara Kendall, and she's amazing on a number of levels, but a few things she's kind of taught me is one, that everyone has a superpower, and she helps athletes who are transitioning from being Olympians to sort of post-Olympic life. And part of that I really like is just, and kind of like honing in on what that is. And so that's been a really cool thing. Like, so for me, she talked about my superpower being my instinct and kind of just backing it a little bit. So what that in reality plays out is sometimes if I've got a 50-50 decision, I'll tend to like the fun one, to be honest. Some instincts like, oh, what's a bit more fun? But and then also the other thing I like is because she was part of the IOC, she just kind of gets a taste. Like in New Zealand, you can get tucked away in the corner of the world, and being part of the Olympic Committee, you get this really big sense of the world and the just the vastness of it and how it is a big international world. And I think she's really helped to like open my eyes to that, and constantly will make introductions to people that are in America or England and Zimbabwe, and that's like just, you know, as soon as you're around that, you're also around cool thinkers as well. So that's been really cool. It's kind of just her thing would be like, when you're young, take that trip, take that flight, you know, good things will happen a little bit. There's a big world out there. You don't glass ceiling yourself to just what's possible. And in the past, I think I was a little bit like my little Auckland bubble, but now very much like 40% of our revenue comes from Australia. So, yeah, it's really helped in that run. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Cool. And what about you, Cameron?
Yeah, yeah, for me, I wrote down Danu from Rush Digital. So if you don't know Danu, he's on oh, what's that morning show? Unfortunately, I never watch it, but he's the kind of tech guy that comes on the AM show and talks about technology. Anyway, he's founder and CTO of Rush Digital. And we worked closely with Rush, developing a tool that uses cameras and AI to help with safety. So essentially, we set up these cameras on construction sites and worked with the machine learning team to train the models how to detect various safety incidents on sites. And just through working with Danu and the team, I learnt more about what agile means. So they just work so quick. They sort of kick down doors and they develop technology at sort of hyper pace. And so for me personally, going from a team that's largely being focused on CAD BIM and you know, delivering construction projects, to now for the past sort of 3-4 years more into the development space, that's been really interesting, and you know, learning from Danu. And the other thing which just amazes me about him is he's got so many connections. He's just one of those people who just sort of knows everyone. And yeah, so definitely an inspirational type character as well. If you meet him, you know, he's always sort of fun to be around. But I would say, you know, like, you know, I've only spent a short amount of time with Chris, you know, but honestly, like, Chris is an inspiration as well, to be honest. I mean, you know, if you ever get the chance to hear his whole story of what their team has achieved and how he got there and the battles he's had along the way, it is just incredible. So I'll put Chris down as a real key influencer for me as well. So there you go, Chris.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you guys, and we will share a few links to go with this video as well. And yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Chloe.
Cool. Appreciate it.